Appendix. Follow-up mistakes. This appendix was created to show you how to avoid some of the common pitfalls many of us encounter while writing email and follow-up messages. You'll also learn the solution to those problems. There's a lot of money to be made with properly prepared and correctly executed email marketing. The key words in that statement are properly prepared and correctly executed. It doesn't matter how good your intentions are, and it doesn't matter how butt-kicking good your offer is. If you blow the basic rules of email marketing, you're headed for disaster. Here's a checklist of what not to do when you're depending on email to boost your revenues. Not following the CAN-SPAM Act. The CAN-SPAM Act of 2003, controlling the Assault of Non-Solicited Pornography and Marketing Act, CAN, was passed into law by the United States Congress to establish rules for companies that use email for marketing or other commercial purposes. The law affects any U.S.-based company or person that sends email containing advertising that promotes a product or a service. Transactional email, which is email that is used solely to update a customer with information that is relevant to his or her account or order, is generally exempt from most provisions of the Act, except it may not use false or misleading routing information. The United States Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, is charged with the responsibility of enforcing the CAN-SPAM Act, and the United States Department of Justice, or DOJ, is authorized to pursue criminal actions against violators of the Act. The CAN-SPAM Act. You can read the entire Act at the FTC's website at www.ftc.gov/spam. Here's an in-depth summary of the provisions. No false or misleading headings. This means the from and to message header, as well as the routing information that shows the originating mail server address, must accurately represent where the email was sent from, who sent it, and to whom it is addressed. No deceptive subject lines. You're not allowed to create mail subject lines that are deceptive or that mislead the reader as to what the body of the email contains. Unsubscribe link required. You must provide a mechanism such as a return email address or a clickable link that enables the email recipient to be removed from your mailing list. It is permissible to create a web-based form that provides the recipient with email management options, such as the ability to opt out of only certain types of messages, as long as there is an option also to be removed from the list entirely. Once you receive an opt-out request, you have 10 business days to make sure no more email is sent to that address. The Act also prohibits you from selling or otherwise giving that email address to anyone else for marketing purposes. All commercial email must be identified as such, and it must contain the sender's postal address. Any commercial email must contain a statement indicating it is an advertisement, as well as instructions on how to opt out from receiving future emails. You must also include your complete physical address somewhere in the body of the email message. What can happen if you violate? Every violation of the Act, which means every individual email you send that is not in full compliance, makes you subject to a fine of up to $11,000. Certain violations may also make you liable for additional fines and penalties under the laws that regulate false or deceptive advertising. In addition to all the provisions listed above, the Act provides for additional fines and penalties for anyone who does any of the following: collects or harvests email addresses from any website containing a notice prohibiting the collection of email addresses from the website for the purposes of commercial mailing. Automatically generates email addresses using a random or systematic combination of alphanumeric character designed to eventually discover actual email addresses at any domain. This is commonly called a dictionary attack. Uses any automated method to register for multiple email accounts for the purpose of sending commercial email. Relays email through any server, network, or computer, including the use of open relays or open proxies without the permission of the owner. Permission from the owner is not a defense against sending emails that otherwise violates the provisions of this act. In addition to all of the above, the DOJ is authorized to prosecute anyone who commits any of the following violations: uses any computer to send commercial email without the permission of the computer's owner. This can include using your employer's computer to send your personal commercial email while you're at work. Uses any computer to relay email messages with the intent of providing misleading information about the actual source of the email. Creates false headers in multiple email messages and then transmits those messages with the false heading intact. Registers for multiple email accounts or domain names while providing false or misleading information about the registrant's actual identity. Falsely states he or she is the owner of multiple Internet Protocol or IP addresses that are used for sending commercial email messages. Test your email message before you send it. Email can be displayed differently in different browsers and email clients. That's why it's important to send a few test messages and then to read those test messages using the most commonly used browsers and email clients in order to make sure what readers see is what you intended them to see. Use a spam checker before you send your email. With so many Internet service providers, or ISPs, and Internet users running spam blocking software, it has never been more important to see how your email stacks up against the electronic gate guardians that are going to try and stop your readers from receiving it. There are a variety of spam checkers available. Run a search on Google using the term spam checking software for a list of them. The preview. Most people have their email client set up so all new email messages are displayed in a preview pane. Depending upon their preferences, that preview pane may also display the to, from, and subject headers, or it may display all of those as well as the first few sentences of the body of the email. This means your email may get scanned for about 1 second by readers before they decide whether they're going to open the message or read it. Knowing that, you'd better be sure you've designed your email so the really good stuff shows up in that preview pane. Use enough white space. If you make your email message too long or try to cram too many words into a paragraph, your reader's eyes are going to instantly glaze over and they're going to hit the delete key. Keep your email messages short and get right to the point. Keep your paragraphs short as well. Take a lesson from the way I've written this book: short sentences and short paragraphs and no fluff. Don't make your text message too text-heavy either. Do you like receiving pages of text? Probably not. There aren't too many people who do. Because few enjoy reading pages of promotional copy, keep your email short and to the point. If you want people to respond, be sure your message is sent at the right time and includes a compelling offer. Test all embedded links. What a waste of time and effort it is to send out an email campaign only to discover the link to your website or order page was malformed and it doesn't work. Test, and then test again before you mail. Provide multiple contact options. Giving prospects only one way to respond to you will cost you sales. Just because you think that email is the best way to communicate doesn't mean your prospect does. Some people are willing to read email and click on a link to visit a website, but they're not going to buy unless they can call on the phone or mail in a check. The Canned Spam Act requires you to include your address anyway, so why not add a telephone number as well? In fact, why not add a toll-free telephone number while you're at it? There are plenty of places to get virtual toll-free numbers for dirt cheap. You can either program them to ring on your home or cellular phone, or you can forward any calls to a voicemail and return calls at your convenience. the appearance of toll-free numbers in your email marketing message is also going to raise your credibility quite a few notches in the skeptical prospect's mind. Monitor your bounce rate. If you're sending email, you can bet some of it's bouncing. You need to be aware of not only how many messages are bouncing, but why they're bouncing. Finding out how much email is bouncing and why can be as simple as checking your mail server logs. Most hosting accounts provide them, as well as a tool to view them. If you have access to the actual bounced mail, the reason that mail bounced will usually be included somewhere in the message. Mail bounces for lots of reasons, and knowing why yours is not reaching its intended audience can help you keep your mailing list clean and responsive. Although there is supposed to be a uniform list of bounce mail reason codes, far too many ISPs have created their own versions. That's why I'm going to provide you with the reasons why emails bounce and not the codes you might find in your mail log. Why your email may be bouncing. Hard mail bounce. This is dead mail. It can't be delivered now or later. This kind of bounce usually means that the person no longer has that email address or the mail server at the domain no longer exists. These dead addresses should be removed from your list right away. If the addresses belong to customers and you have their phone numbers, there's nothing that says you can't call and invite them to resubscribe. Even if that person's number is on the national do not call list, you have an existing or pre-existing business relationship with that client. That means you can legally call the person up until the point he or she asks you not to call anymore. Soft mail bounce. This type of bounce indicates the email could not be delivered at the moment, but it might be possible to get the message delivered at some time in the future. This is a common bounce message that is sent when someone else's mailbox is full. You should continue to mail this address for 2 or 3 more cycles and monitor the progress. If it finally gets delivered, you're all set. If it continues to bounce, there's either a more serious problem that isn't going to be reported correctly by the ISP, or the user has abandoned that mail account. Transient mail bounce. A transient bounce is a message often generated by the sender's email message, which indicates a particular message could not yet be delivered, but the server is still trying. Usually a transient bounce can be safely ignored. General mail bounce. A general bounce message could be either a hard or a soft bounce. There's no way to tell. This bounce notice is usually created by older mail systems that do not report the difference between the 2 types of bounces. Handle this address the same way you would handle a soft bounce. Blocked mail bounce. This message usually means the recipient's mail server is not accepting mail from your mail server. This might be because your address is on an email recipient's personal block list, or the ISP has blocked you as an undesirable sender for some reason. This isn't good news in either event. If the user has blocked you, then you might as well delete the address. However, if the ISP blocked you, then you need to contact the ISP directly and find out why. You might find out you're on one or more of the spammers blacklists that ISPs use to create mail filters, or you might find there's something in your email message that triggers the ISP's spam filters. Out-of-office auto-reply. This type of message is generated when a user has activated the out-of-office feature on his or her email client. Out-of-office messages aren't actual bounces. They usually indicate the receiver has your message in his or her inbox, but they're not available to read the message right now. Unsubscribed mail message. These are also not bounces. They indicate your reader is no longer interested in hearing from you. Delete the address. Virus found notification. Either the email you sent had a virus or something about the email fooled the email server into thinking you had one. If you're getting lots of these from different ISPs, chances are the problem is on your end. If they are few and far between or isolated to just one ISP, your email is probably clean. investigate and take whatever action is appropriate. Keep the email address active in the meanwhile. Mail address change notification. This is a courtesy notification. The user's address has changed. Even though you are being provided with the new address, you can't automatically update it and start mailing. You're going to need to contact the subscriber at the new address and give the subscriber a link to resubscribe. Don't mail a second time if the subscriber does not respond. Mail challenge response. This type of message means the subscriber is managing his or her email using a whitelist or a list of approved senders. Usually a message of this type will also contain a link you can click to add yourself to that person's list. If one is present, click it and jump through the hoops. Taking down your landing page or other email-connected items too soon. It can sometimes take a few weeks for someone to get around to reading your email for any number of reasons, including illness or vacation. If you take your landing page down too soon, or you delete any supporting graphics the email needs, you'll lose sales. Don't be in too much of a rush to end the campaign. If the emailing you sent included a time-sensitive offer, leave the landing page up for a few weeks or more after the campaign ends. Simply replace the content on the landing page with content stating you are sorry they missed the offer, but keep checking their mail for new ones. This will keep you from alienating or confusing your client. It also allows you to reinforce to your customers your time limits are real. They'll respond quicker next time. Not taking time to proofread. Nothing makes you look more unprofessional than sending out an email full of spelling and grammar mistakes. Don't depend on your spell checker alone. Print the message out and read it carefully, one word at a time. Then give it to at least 2 more people and have them do the same thing. The things not to do list may seem long, but you're just fooling yourself if you think you can ignore these items and just blow out an email campaign anytime you want. Well, that's not entirely true. Nothing says you can't blow the campaign out without following the list, but what good is doing so if you don't make any sales in return? In the next chapter, we'll conclude our journey. Conclusion and final word. Well, we're coming to the end of the road here as far as this manual, but that doesn't mean your profitable journey following up with your customers and subscribers is over. Actually, it's far from over. This manual isn't encyclopedia length. It's short, to the point, and doesn't have any fluff, filler, or unneeded content. It's meant to be a reference manual, and you can come back to it on a daily basis. Use this chapter on increasing the conversion of your emails to further improve your profits on your business. That chapter is one of the single most powerful chapters in this entire book for one reason. You can increase your profits and total number of sales you're making without increasing the amount of prospects or customers you get into your follow-up sequence. For example, if you had a product recommendation that went out to new customers a month after they made a purchase from you, and you're getting 3% of them to make that additional purchase, you could work on that conversion rate. If you just tested a few new good messages, you could probably get that number up to 6% and possibly 9% or more if you test aggressively. That may not sound like a lot when you look at it in percentages, but it actually translates into double and triple the business you would have had. As you can see, a small bump in response can mean a huge response in terms of profits and total sales. Make sure you're constantly testing. You should never be in a state where you aren't testing. There will never be a time when your emails and follow-up messages are at the top of their game and response. Why is this? By nature, the internet is always changing and changing daily. One day people are just using emails to communicate. The next they're using MySpace. One day people are blogging. The next day people are creating videos to share with millions of people on YouTube. You need to adapt to change and trends online and test those ideas in your messages so you can give the maximum response possible from your follow-up efforts. You should also toy with the sequence of messages you send out and change up the days between messages to test those out. Of course, the sample sequence you've included with this course is great and will work for almost any purpose you need, but once you've tested your messages, the next logical thing to test would be the spaces between messages and even mixing up the order of messages as far as when they go out. You may even consider testing sending recommendations right after the sale to try and capitalize on their recent purchase with you to see if you can get a higher response rate. These are all things you should give a good test. The follow-up to Fortune manual has taught you the ins and outs of writing effective emails and follow-up messages, as well as how to structure them for maximum effectiveness. But your follow-up will always be an ongoing process. You should be testing 365 days a year to refine the response rate because that means more money for you. I encourage you to go back through this manual several times. While it's short, the information is powerful, and there are literally hundreds of concepts and strategies throughout the manual, so one reading probably isn't going to suffice. I recommend going back after you've finished the book once and reading each chapter one at a time, and then going and taking action on what you've learned. If you do it in chunks like this, you'll slowly but surely and easily have your first follow-up sequence written and ready to send out in a matter of a day or two. It isn't really hard. Once you've finished your first follow-up sequence, then go back through the manual again and start implementing some of the strategies for improving response and changing things around so you can further improve the profits your follow-up efforts are making. If you keep your focus on your follow-up, your business will thrive much more than you ever thought possible. With all of that said, I want to congratulate you for making it to this final section of the Follow-Up to Fortune manual. You've truly shown a level of dedication that isn't found in most business people. You should pat yourself on the back for completing this manual. The next step is to go back through the manual and apply everything you've learned. Once you start doing this, the rubber meets the road and you'll start seeing increased profits all around. I wish you profitable success in all your business endeavors.